Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Rose and Mr. Remedy, and you are watching another show on the Roundtable Remedies. And I'm super excited for our cast tonight. We're going to be talking about the power of forgiveness. And just so you know, those that are watching, Roundtable Remedies was created to inspire and connect and educate you on how to have a better life. We want to inspire, connect, and educate you from our real stories, from real people, keeping it super authentic. And in speaker rotation, if I can just have everybody introduce themselves really quick and tell us where they're calling from. Gina?
Hi, my name is Gina, and I'm calling from New Jersey.
Awesome. Jersey in the house. Next in speaker rotation, Anahi?
Hi, I'm Anaí Gomez, and I'm calling from Jersey as well.
Awesome. And then anchoring us in for tonight, Dr. Maria.
Hi, I'm Dr. Maria Rodriguez, and I am New Jersey.
Awesome. You know, the power of forgiveness is a very disruptive topic of conversation. And it's not something as adults they would really enjoy talking about. But here on the round table all year long, we've been having different themes, different topics, and I've hoped that you've been enjoying the series all year long. And this month we're talking about the power of forgiveness. And so in our conversation today, I hope that you can challenge yourself, process, unpack, think about who do you need to forgive? Is it a friend? Is it a family member? Is it a business partner? Is it an old spouse? Is it your current spouse? Right? The power of forgiveness. And so I'm really excited and let's jump right in. So, Gina, when you
Yes.
think of the power of forgiveness, what comes to mind?
Well, forgiveness is not easy. However, it is liberating. Once you are able to forgive somebody, it's not a forget. You don't forget necessarily, but you have to learn to be able to walk through that process because you could still be hurt, right? So that's pretty much sums it up for me about forgiveness. It's freeing.
Yeah. You know, did you ever feel like you had some challenges with forgiveness? Well,
Well, I think I came out of the womb having to forgive, right? So, one of the things that, that happened to me is, I had to forgive my parents. Um, my mom, who had disappeared when I was little and left me with my grandparents. My father, who is non existent, I had to forgive them. And, all the people in my life that, and having to forgive them, I think, you know, made it easier to forgive others.
hmm. You know, I feel like I could relate in many ways. You know, I had an absent father, and my mother was there. She was a nanny, and she did the best we could, right? But late '80s, early 2000s, it's a different time period. I think that we're all kind of living in, and without technology, a lot of us had to grow up fast, and so
Yes.
I can definitely relate, Gina. And you're courageous for sharing that. I think that for those that are watching, how many of you had to break the generational curse from absent parents?
Hmm.
I definitely
Yeah.
can agree. Gina, how did you go through that process growing up and trying to forgive?
Well, it obviously it took a long time. Um, up until you know it took a long time. I think through my teens up until my 20s, I would just walk around like I was chewing nails for dinner, you
Mm,
know, and I didn't even understand why everybody was walking around with so much joy, because of what I've experienced. But
mhm,
since my walk with Christ, that
mhm,
has helped me because I know that he's forgiven me. There's nobody that's perfect. Everybody is just trying to, or most everybody's just trying to do their best. Nothing, a life doesn't come with a playbook, right? So you just walk through it the best way you can, and you know, apologize, and hopefully it's accepted with forgiveness and grace.
Wow, that's very well said. And I feel as I'm listening to you and I was preparing for this show, I was reading an article and they said that not forgiving is actually very negative to our health. And I think, Dr. Maria, you can kind of attest to this, that it's kind of like they related it to cancer, something that kind of eats at you and it just slowly can just continue to hurt you healthy wise. When you were, and it may might not be related to family here now, Gina, but just
Mhm.
now that you are in a different state of mind, how does that empower you? Where's the power come in now?
So it's a choice to forgive, right? Um, you have to make a clear decision on whether you're going to forgive or not forgive, right? But when you don't forgive, you're constantly replaying the situation in your mind on how you should go about forgiving or not forgiving, just replaying it. And, it's just exhaustive, you know,
Right.
it's better to let go and move on. I know it's easier said than done because, certain things may not call for forgiveness
Sure.
because of the damage that it did, but forgiveness is for you as
Mm,
a person to be able to just live, you know. It's a daily decision, a daily struggle to not be offended, you
right.
know. Everybody seems to be walking around with offense, just ready to be offended.
Mm,
Um, you know, for me, I'm not trying to block my blessings to be offended at every little thing. That's just too
right.
much, right?
That's so empowering. I love, you just kind of gave us a whole bunch of remedies. Forgiveness is liberating. Forgiveness takes time. Forgiveness is a choice. And really, forgiveness is for you. I love that. You're right. You think that you're forgiving the other person when you're actually just accepting it and forgiving yourself in that
Yeah.
sense. Is that what I'm taking, right? The- Anahi, I saw you head nodding earlier when we were talking about family and some challenges that Gina was sharing. What were you nodding? What were you thinking?
I feel that sometimes we go through situations when people hurt you in certain, certain situations, right? And they never come to you and actually ask for an apology, or they don't give an apology. But the fact that you have, I think that forgiveness is a power that you own. And the moment that you forgive that person, you grow to another level, and you stop carrying a heavy bag on your shoulders. And I feel that you stop living in the past, be more present, and focus on your future.
Hmm. Forgiveness is growth. I definitely agree. Dr. Maria, you were head nodding before with Gina's statement. Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I have similar experiences to Gina, in terms of the absent parents, right? So I like to look at forgiveness as an act of self love, because when we hold on to grudges, we are consumed by negativity, and that negativity affects our emotional well being, our physical well being. You mentioned earlier that study shows that it impacts our heart health, and it impacts our physical, our stress management. We
Mhm.
get stomach problems when we don't forgive, when we have these grudges. And I always like to look at, and this is, I tell my family also, if you're angry with me, you have to tell me, because I'm not walking around thinking if you're angry. So
Right.
that means that you hold on to the anger, you hold on to the grudges, and people have moved on, so you're the only one here not forgiving or not moving on. So it's important to remember that forgiveness is about you letting go and you feeling free, like Gina and Anai has have mentioned already. It's about yourself. It's releasing and giving that positive energy to yourself again, loving yourself.
Absolutely. So we have a couple people watching right now, and we're talking about the power of forgiveness. I wanted to ask you all a question. Is it hard to forgive? Is it hard forgiving? And we're talking about family, friends, spouses, just relationships, business partners. And as this conversation, I hope that you can unpack and process and challenge yourself with this conversation. Thank you, Maria. I think forgiveness is an act of self love. A lot of the times for me, when I struggle with forgiveness, I think about it all day. It just makes me feel icky, right? That just like that dirty, nasty feeling. And I get frustrated, right? And I don't want that negative feeling of me thinking of someone else, right? Because it's empowering them. You
Mhm.
know, they're living in my head rent free. And I'm just so angry at that. And it's just, what am I going to do with it? And what we were talking about today so far is forgiveness is liberating and forgiveness is a daily choice. And so I really appreciate, Gina, you kicking us off with this conversation. We will hear from you a little bit more in our final thought segment at the end of the show. But is there anything else that you wanted to add to, as we were talking in the power of forgiveness?
So when you forgive, right, you have to think about, the reason why the person offended you.
Mhm.
Why would they do something like that? Sometimes, everybody grows up differently, right? So I think that plays a role in it,
Mhm.
their background, or whatever it is that they're dealing with.
Mhm.
So there are some times where, although I'm forgiving, I may be having empathy, you
Mhm.
know
It's true.
like empathy for my mom, who was, you know on drugs. I forgive her. um, I have empathy for her. She came from a background where, you know it was a wealthy background, I guess. Not a poor background, but the environment was toxic.
Mm.
And I'm forgiving. I forgive her. I had to forgive her. She was young. She had me when she was 18. you know
Yeah, I mean, shout out to early moms. It's definitely a struggle. And I think that it's really important as adults, we carry a lot of this trauma.
it's trauma.
And having this conversation is really, I guess, therapeutic, one would say, or we're just kind of turning the stone, healing at you. And as I read something here, it says, "What is forgiveness in psychology?" It's really interesting. It says, psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you. It's hard to kind of just move on from that. It's not easy.
No, it's not. But forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to just roll the red carpet out for somebody either. There's trust that may need to be rebuilt. There's a process as you walk through that,
Right.
Yeah.
to forgive.
Dr. Baral says, forgiveness is an inside job.
Yes, exactly right.
She continues to say, it's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. Yeah, very well said. So thank you again, Gina. Don't go anywhere. We have another final thoughts segment at the end. Uh, so, Anahi, I really appreciate you coming on the show. We recently just met a couple of weeks ago at an office when we were having a chamber meeting and recently connecting, and look at us now. I really appreciate you coming on the show. So I want to start off with some gratitude and say thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. The power of forgiveness. You talked a little bit about it. So we want to hear a little bit more. When you think of the power of forgiveness, what comes to mind?
Is setting yourself free. It's letting everything go and don't look back, don't think about anymore. Um, like I mentioned before, the other person that hurt you not necessarily is gonna come and apologize to you, but you have the power to forgive that person. It doesn't matter if that person deserves it or not. This is for you to be able to set yourself free and live in the best way life possible, and just focus on what matters to you, like myself, my kids. I don't care about anything else. I live and do everything for my kids. And whoever hurt me in the past is belongs to the past in my
Mm.
situation.
Wow. How do you have such strong character to not allow those letdowns or those things that would happen that you would require forgiveness? How do you not let them impact you?
Therapy. It's
What's the
a
secret?
whole word out there.
Hmm.
um, it's I think the people that you surround yourself on those type of situations, it matters a lot. Um, I never thought that when I went through certain path, I will have so many people had my back, and that helps me a lot. That they give me directions to the right path, and I just try to hold my hand by God
Mm.
and put myself back again and keep going.
Right. And so when we think of forgiveness, we're learning that it's our choice. But how do you practice forgiveness? I'm reading here. It helps if you have worked on positively changing your inner world by learning to be what I call forgivingly fit. Forgivingly fit. What if I don't want to forgive? You know, there's a lot of us that kind of continue to carry some weight. And for me, I'm going through something right now with a business partner where I'm almost at a point, do I cut ties because he literally stole money from me? And I'm in my spirit, I'm trying to forgive him and then just take the legal action. Maybe me doing the legal action, delegating, that's kind of just setting myself free. But what's the right thing to do here? To continue to let them do what they're doing? I don't want to be a doormat, right? Anahi, what are some of your thoughts that if for how do we learn not to allow these same things to happen more than once?
Well, one thing is forgive someone for something that happened, but that doesn't mean that you have to approve the actions or you have to be okay with whatever they have to do.
Mm.
Um, and also the same way that as I forgive people in my past or in my present in my life, I also set boundaries.
Mm.
So with those boundaries, it's like I'm gonna protect. I have to protect my mental health, my well being, and my heart.
Mm.
So I don't continue putting toxic topics on my life or letting people around me that's gonna continue hurting myself or putting me in situations when I don't feel comfortable with. So I think boundaries, you don't have to prove that everything the reason that you give it a forgiveness doesn't mean that you okay with whatever they did to you.
It's true. Can you help frame for us or show us in your words what a boundary is for those that don't understand how to set boundaries? What is a boundary that you have with, you don't want people to cross?
Um, I cut communication with that person. I try to have like some type of healthy relationship, but I see they continue on the same cycle,
Mhm.
and I cut communication. If I have to talk to that person, it's just for the straightforward point and no more, no entertaining anything else.
Mm.
That way, I don't open any more windows or any more doors, opportunities for him to continue, you know, put me in a situation that's gonna hurt me again or
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. I think you kind of illustrated that perfect, setting a boundary with communication. If somebody is triggering, if somebody is disrespecting you, block them. Don't respond to their calls or text messages. Um, you know, set a very strict line and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to entertain this conversation. And you stand on that boundary. And so, for those that are struggling and they don't know how to set boundaries, anything that kind of bothers you that you don't like, that's probably what's showing you by discernment what to set a boundary on, right? Gina, I see you nodding your head. What are some of your thoughts? What's going through your mind?
Um, like Anna he said, it's boundaries. You know, um, you choose who you want to let in your life and who needs to leave. That's your choice. The back and forth arguing is just so draining and time consuming.
Hmm.
Just drop the mic and just walk away.
Yeah, I had to go through a boundary with a family member, and this person wasn't saying very nice things about my spouse. And so, how do I have this person in my house if they're not respecting my spouse? We have children together. We've been together for multiple years. That's a boundary you can't cross. It doesn't matter who you are. If this is my person, and I had to stand on that boundary. And when
Yeah,
I'm explaining it, I'm trying to express myself. This person gets defensive. So
that's
I
their
feel like
problem.
right?
Yeah, that's their problem.
They're
That's
Mhm.
not
something that they
respecting the
have to work
boundary.
out.
And it's challenging because you want to keep everybody happy, but how do you keep everybody happy if people are kind of doing what they want and not respecting your boundaries? Dr. Maria, you're shaking your head. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep everybody happy. You have to keep yourself happy, and everybody who loves you will be happy for you. Right.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes we have this misconception that forgiveness is about forgetting and then allowing people to run over you. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, right? It breaks the chains that keep us trapped to the anger. It's a choice that we make to forgive, to say that the pain can't define my future anymore, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to forget, right? I forgive you because I want to move forward with my life. But that doesn't mean I'm going to forget what you've done, and I'm going to allow you back into my life. And something that was brought up earlier was the empathy. When I started to forgive my mom, which was very important to me as I moved forward and led me to be who I am today, and the person empath that I am today with other people, is putting myself in her shoes, right? Because we easily judge the people who hurt us with the experience and the knowledge that we have today, especially with our parents. We say, well, you should have done this. Well, maybe 20, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, she didn't have that resource or that knowledge that I have today. And that's what I work a lot with the families that I work with, the kids who are resentful towards their parents. Oh, they left me in my country, and they came, and I didn't see them for 10 years, 15 years, and I suffered. We go through the whole process. Well, let's put ourselves in their shoes and why they left you behind. And I know it's difficult, but let's be empathic and hear what they had to say and what they went through. It was probably not difficult. It was probably difficult for them as well. And other people who hurt us. In relationships, for example. Some people are just toxic, right? And some people hurt us because of the situation. When we love, we're going to get hurt because we have expectations. And when people fall short of our expectations, that's when we get hurt. So what happened in this situation that caused our pain. Yes, you
Mm.
made a mistake. And then this is when boundaries come in, like we mentioned earlier, so that we don't keep getting hurt by the same person or the same thing over and over and over again. So, empathy, yes, boundaries, of course, and understanding, but not allowing that to happen again because we love ourselves and we respect ourselves enough not to let it happen again.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about loving yourself, and working on forgiveness can actually help us increase our self-esteem. And
Hmm.
a lot of time, forgiveness is about extending mercy for those that have harmed us. And I feel like a couple of years ago, um, I don't know if you ever watched this movie, Billy Madison. It was with Adam Sandler. And in the movie, there's a scene where Adam is calling people who he was kind of mean to. And in the movie, Billy Madison, there's this guy, he's a comedian who has a shotgun in his hand. Okay, just to kind of illustrate it. After the call, he put lipstick on and he looks at the sheet of a whole bunch of names that he had a line through. And with Adam's name, he kind of erased it. And the reason why I share this story is because maybe about 10 years ago, I started reaching out to people in my upbringing that I was kind of mean to. And I started asking for their forgiveness. So, hey, if I was mean to you growing up or if I did something, I forgive you. Or please forgive me. And I'll never forget this true story. A friend that I grew up with, I was kind of mean to him, and we were all mean to each other kind of growing up. Um, but I asked for forgiveness, and he's like, you know what? It's okay, Anthony. And less than a year later, he passed away from a disease.
Mm.
And I'll tell you right now that it was so empowering, just even being able to share this story now, that he and we mended relationship. I asked for forgiveness, and he forgave me, and he's not here now. And so these are things that, yeah, there might be things that we have done as individuals that
Right.
we have to ask for forgiveness at the same time. So I don't want to just kind of have this conversation where it's all about us forgiving others for doing wrong. I'm going to put myself on the chopping block first, that I'm not perfect. And there I may have things that I've done in my past that I'm not proud of, but we got to be better people and try to move on from that. And I just wanted to share. I see some of you nodding your head. Gina, what are some of your thoughts?
Um, no, I just, everything that you're saying aligns with um, how I feel. Um, you know, spirituality takes the head for me. Um, I think that that's the only reason why I'm able to forgive
Yeah.
is because of my
Yes,
relationship
me too. Yeah,
with
100%. I
God.
agree.
That's because the ego will run your life if you let it,
Mm,
right? So I work on yielding to the Holy Spirit and giving grace, extending grace wherever I can.
that ego. I
The
wonder
ego
how
will
many
run
of us
your
have
life.
that, but we know we should say sorry or ask for forgiveness, but when the cat got the tongue, the saying is like, I plead the fifth. I'm not here smiling. What are you smiling about? What are you thinking?
No, yeah, sometimes it's hard. It's not that
Hard.
easy.
It's not easy.
Yeah, we had to recognize when we don't do something, right, and we had to um, face it and say, "Hey, I'm sorry." We're humans; we do mistakes, and I'm a very I always like to say that don't apologize, please give an excuse right after. Don't give an apology with an excuse right after, because to me that's not an apology. It's like, is you gonna apologize? It's, I'm sorry. And that's it. No, I'm sorry because this and that and all this situation. No, it's just I'm sorry.
Right. It's true. It's just people probably take I'm sorry for granted, and then they do it again, right? When we're addressing forgiveness, we also have to talk about the inner pain. Sometimes things can be lingering, or that's where that trauma comes in. And I am guilty of this, especially when it comes to family. I am the type of person to not want to sugarcoat and brush things under the rug at this point in my life. I think that if you want to be in my life and we have some things we need to forgive each other about, especially when it comes to family, um, you can all agree or disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but they don't want to hear it. And when I go into certain things, I'm like, hey, this is how you made me feel. This is what you did. They don't want to take responsibility, and they get defensive, and they think that just by talking loud, they're winning the conversation. And so I'm just kind of at a standstill. I'm trying to have um, mature conversations with individuals that we need to heal. And if I was to say something that they disagree on, they're not really listening to understand my point of view. Like you said, Dr. Maria, putting them in my shoes if I'm putting myself in theirs. So, what are some of your thoughts with that, Dr. Maria?
So, a couple of things, right? When we talk to someone about how we feel, right? We need to have a purpose in place for ourselves. Are we looking to what is it that we want out of the conversation? Do we want them to hear us? Do we want them to understand us? Or I just want to get something out of my chest, right? So, when you're going to approach that person, you have to be centered into your goal because what you want out of the person is not in your control, right? So they may say something that you don't like. Um, so that's why you have to shift that conversation into what is it before I go into that conversation? What is it that I want to gain for me, not them? Keep them out because you don't have control of what they're going to say, what they're going to do, or even if they're going to hear you or agree with you. And that's okay. We all have different of opinions. They don't have to agree with you and they may see things differently. They may think they didn't hurt you, right? They may come out and say, well, you hurt me when you did this, blah, 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 right? And shift that
Right.
conversation. And now it's a fight, right? So another thing that I like to remember is this is not a competition, right? Especially if we're family members. We are here to love each other and grow. If we're partners, we're here to make our business grow, right? So our focus is not you're wrong and I'm right. Our focus is partnership. How do we grow and make this work from here? How can we compromise and move forward from there? So I might not want an apology because you may or may not understand where I'm coming from, and that is okay. But where do we go from here? And again, we go with the setting boundaries. These are my boundaries. Please respect them. If not, then I have to make a decision whether I want to move on without that person because I don't appreciate or like the way they're treating me.
Right. What do you think about when you're trying to find the meaning in your suffering, especially when you know that there are some things that you have to forgive in your past, things that you've done or things that have been done to you? How do you process the meaning behind the suffering, Dr. Maria?
So what I like to do, and I always go back to what I like to do because I have grown so much over the years in terms of forgiveness and loving myself and also helping other people, right? So when I am hurt by someone or I feel like I've hurt someone, I like to sit maybe for 15, 30 minutes, whatever I feel that is comfortable, and think about what happened. This person hurt me this way, and just acknowledge and feel that pain because sometimes we just have to be in that pain in order to move forward, right? And heal, right? So then I don't let that be my entire day. So I'll put a timer, 30 minutes, and I sit in my pain. Okay, 30 minutes are up. Tomorrow I can come back and figure things out and figure or come up with a plan. But tomorrow is a new day, and I have the time tomorrow so it doesn't encompass my entire day and I'm not depressed all day.
Hmm.
So
So,
sometimes also,
mhm.
what did I learn from that pain, right? Because pain can make you a stronger person and it can lead you and propel you into your future and the person that you're meant to be. Not to say
Mm,
that you need to go to seek pain, but if it's there, where can I lead? Where can I take this in a positive way?
that's very powerful. Gina, I saw you nodding your head. Do you have a comment you'd like to add?
You know, well, there's always a purpose in pain, right? So you have, like Miss Dr. Maria said, you have to glean something positive from a bad situation,
Hmm.
and maybe that gleaning is you're able to now separate yourself because you've seen that person for what they are. They're going to continue to do what they've always done, and you've decided to make a decision to leave. That could be the
Mhm.
positive thing in its, in its entirety,
Right,
just by being able to be strong enough to leave.
right. Anahi, anything you'd like to add where we're talking about, learning through the suffering?
I completely agree with both. And I do feel that way. Like I got to a situation where the pain was like so profound that I had to leave. Like Gina said, um, everything has a limit, and we have to take care of ourselves. So I couldn't just let myself going through continue on that situation that is the only thing that was created was just pain. So at a certain point I just stop. This is it. This is the limit I can
Mm,
support, and I cut it out and move forward. But it has to do between pain, forgiveness, and ready to move forward.
wow, right. And there's no specific amount of time in
No,
that.
that depends on, everybody's situation is gonna be completely different. Some people they can get like 1 to 3, and then the other ones it takes months, so it could take
Mhm.
years. And
Mm,
the only thing that I can say is like, is you, it's so many help out there, professional and family and friends that they can support you to pass those type of phases in your life. So
right,
if the help is up there, go reach for it. Don't try
right,
to struggle on your own when someone is willing to help you.
right. And I love, we talked earlier, is that forgiveness does not erase the past. So if there's someone or something you need to forgive, it's going to take some time, but learn through the suffering. And that's really amazing. Dr. Maria, I want to ask you for a shameless plug. If you can tell those that are watching a little bit more about who you are and what you do and your background on our topic.
Okay, I am Dr. Maria Rodriguez. I have three counseling centers: Care Counseling Center, carecounselingcenter.org. I am in New Jersey, located Somerville, Jersey City, and Princeton. I am also available via telehealth, and I've been practicing for over 25 years. That makes me really old, but that's okay.
Ooh, that's awesome. And so for you may be the most experienced um,
Are you
with this
saying the
type.
oldest one?
Come on. You have that doctor, you got to use it, right? Not everyone can say they have that. So Dr. Maria, when you think about the power of forgiveness and with your 25 years plus, you're human, we all go through things. So how do you practice, or what do you think of when it comes to that topic tonight, the power of forgiveness?
And in terms of what we've all said here today and summarize, so what rings to me is that we need, like they say in the airplanes, right? When we travel, you need to put the mask on yourself first. So you need to care for yourself first, and then everybody else, right? It's something that we don't learn, especially for women. We always learn take care of everybody else. And then in taking care of everybody else, we allow people to run over us, right? And then we have all this build up anger, and that's when it becomes so difficult to forgive, right? So we have to start loving ourselves first and putting the mask on ourselves first, taking care of ourselves first. Because when we care for ourselves first, then we care for everybody else. It's just easy. Everybody else is just drawn to happy and loving people.
Right. And so, with what you do professionally every single day, how would you coach someone on being a better version of themselves, beginning with the healing part of forgiveness?
So it's something turning something negative into something positive. I always like to use the most obvious example, right? Carol G. She went through this heartbreak, and it was horrible. We all saw when Anuel left her for this other singer, and now her career just boomed. She took that pain and turned it into something magical. And other people have done that too. So this is why you have to just sit in your pain for a little bit, right? And then how do I learn? How do I grow? How do I take this negativity and turn it into something magical? Because at one point we all go through pain. Somebody will always let us down, and we will let other people down. So how can we grow from this pain and from this experience instead of letting that chain us down into negativity and misery?
Wow, sit in your pain. I don't think anybody feels comfortable to sit and process that, and I think is really important. And I wanted to add something to that. I try to listen to where the pain is coming from. There are some body, help me, doctor, reaction that happen. You can have a tight chest. You can have sweaty hands. You can have a restless leg that you just nonstop shaking. These are your body's way of showing you something's about to go down and you're not comfortable.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit more about some of these triggers, doctor, and how can we identify them better?
Right. So different people have different symptoms, right? A lot of people suffer from stomach problems. This is where your pain, your anger lies. Your stomach becomes very sensitive. A lot of people then suffer from high blood pressure from all that stress and negativity. So, what are some triggers? What are some signs? Some people, like you were saying, get the sweaty palms. They get the. I hear a lot of people say, "My ears get hot," or "I just black out." Right, and that's because a lot of times we're not getting enough oxygen, so we just need to literally just breathe through that anger or through that pain so we can kind of rethink everything all over again.
I really appreciate that. And, again, this is a disruptive conversation in the narrative of every day. We don't think about these conversations and our pain and our struggles and boundaries. And I think that is really refreshing that we can come together and have this conversation because I don't see anybody having it. And, I don't think that there's a lot of people or enough people that take advantage of therapy, and church is my therapy. My pastor is my therapist, you know, and not that I don't believe in therapy and therapists. I just haven't found the good one that I can relate and connect with. But it would be nice, because my pastor deals with a lot, and me just kind of bombarding him, I don't know if he'll have that time for that. So I'm an advocate. Go find a therapist. In fact, I did in Paramus, New Jersey, attend an anger management and substance abuse for a year and a half. And this December, I'm celebrating 3 years dry. And
Wow, that's awesome.
thank you. Yeah. And, with 5 kids, with my spouse, with my business, alcohol doesn't have a place in my life anymore.
Mhm.
And I had a unhealthy relationship with alcohol since my adolescence. And I know I'm not the only one, from a male or a female. The things that I hear when I'm vulnerable, sharing what I've gone through, it kind of sets that tone for others to feel comfortable to share as well. So I encourage you all that are watching, use your vulnerability as your superpower, and don't feel shamed or embarrassed or guilty. We're all human. We're all not perfect, and we're all striving to be better versions of ourselves. And that's what the Roundtable Remedies is all about. And so I want to thank you all for coming on right now. I can't believe that the show just went so fast. We're rounding third base, but we're not done. We have our final thoughts segment of the show. We're in speaker rotation. We're going to go around and just kind of ask again, what are your final thoughts on the segment of the power of forgiveness? Gina, final thoughts.
Forgive. Um, don't share shame behind it for the person. You know what I'm saying? If you're going
Hmm.
to forgive, just forgive and walk away. Don't forgive and constantly remind them.
Mm,
Remind them. You've already forgiven them. Let it
mm.
go. And don't shame them.
That's a powerful one. That's a powerful final thought. You were saving that final remedy, huh? He was like, I don't want to give you guys everything. I gotta save this one. That was a good final thought. Don't let it linger. Don't let it linger. And don't continue to take that scab off, right? Forget about the band-aid. You're just peeling at the scab. I got it. I got that. Thank you, Gina. Anahi, what are some of your final thoughts on the power of forgiveness?
Besides forgiving others, um, we had to take a moment and analyze if we should start with ourselves first. Sometimes we put so heavy bags on ourselves as in all the roles that we handle through the day, mother, as business owners, and be a parent and be this and that. And sometimes you use beating yourself and you forgot to forgive yourself because you're thinking that, oh, you're not doing enough, or you're not doing 100% in this area, when you are. You got to start before you forget somebody else. Sometimes you have to start forgetting yourself first.
Powerful. Absolutely. Be kind to yourself. And one of the things that is really easy that I'm thinking about is like, oh, Anthony, you're so dumb. Oh, Anthony, you're so stupid. You're more like, these little things that we would say to ourselves. Be nice to yourself is what I'm taking from that final thought. I really appreciate that, Anahi. Dr. Maria, final thoughts.
Okay, final thoughts. I would say that forgiveness is the ultimate expression of strength, where you decide that your well being and growth matter more than holding on to something that no longer serves you. And that includes also forgiving yourself.
Mhm. I think that's super important. And for anybody that's watching a little bit late, you can always go on the replay and watch us again. It was an amazing, impactful show with a ton of remedies. And I want to say thank you all, speakers. Don't go nowhere. We're going to hang out in the afterglow for a minute. But I always like to close the show with a final quote. And the quote is brought to you by Martin Luther King Jr. And the quote is, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Go in grace, go in peace. Thank you for watching another segment on the Roundtable Remedies. It's Anthony Rose and Mr. Remedy. Talk to you soon. Peace out. Bye.